Commander Elliot Reeve sat inside the quiet command room of the Earth's diplomatic cruiser, Horizon Dawn. Stars moved slowly outside the large window, casting silver light on his calm face. For the past 8 months, he had one job: talk to an alien. Queen, who had not met a human in person. Her name was Queen Halzarith of the Kalari Empire, species that once ruled 5 planets but had become quiet and isolated. No one had seen the Queen's face for years. She lived on her throne ship, hidden behind walls, only speaking through a secure text channel. At first, the conversations were cold and formal. Reeve sent offers for trade, peace, and cultural exchange. She answered with short, direct replies. But over time, something changed. Their chats became longer. She began asking questions about Earth, about music, about jokes. Sometimes even about silly things like how humans decorate birthday cakes or why they sing in the shower. Reeve was surprised. She was supposed to be a cold, proud alien queen, but she had a curious mind. She was clever, sometimes funny, and, often blunt. He started looking forward to the messages. Every day at 19 o'clock ship time, her message would appear. Queen Halzarith, _9000. Why do humans celebrate New Year? The galaxy does not reset. Reeve smiled and typed his reply. Commander Reeve, we don't celebrate the time. We celebrate the chance to begin again. She didn't reply immediately. But then, after 10 minutes, Queen Halzarith, _9000. That is, unexpectedly poetic human. That's how it was with her. Small questions, short replies. But under those lines, something deeper was growing. One day, Reeve sat down at his console, expecting another question about human culture or food. Instead, her message appeared and made his hands freeze. Quinn Halzarith, _9000. Are you single? Human? Reeve blinked. He stared at the words for a full minute. The lights around the control room seemed brighter. The hum of the ship louder. Did she just ask, that? He wasn't sure what to think. Was it a joke? A test? Some strange alien ritual? His hands hovered above the keyboard. He read the message again. Was this personal or political? What if it was a cultural trick and he answered wrong? He stood up and began pacing. Back on Earth, he had been alone for years. Not by choice. His job was dangerous and distant. He had spent most of his life traveling across the stars, talking to strange species and building peace. There wasn't time for romance. And now, Queen and alien ruler, no one had seen for decades, was asking if he was single. He sat down again and took a deep breath. He typed slowly. Commander Reeve, that is a surprising question, Your Majesty. Her reply came quickly. Quinn Halzarith, _9000? It is a simple one. You either are or you are not. Reeve hesitated, then answered, Commander Reeve, yes, I am single. Long pause followed. For almost 15 minutes, there was no reply. Then finally, Quinn Halzarith, _9000. Interesting. Later that night, Reeve sat alone in the mess hall, drinking recycled coffee and thinking. He remembered everything he knew about Queen Halzarith. She had been a warrior once. She fought in the War of 9 Suns, where she was injured and nearly lost her life. Reports said she was disabled now, some parts of her body non-functional. No one knew what she looked like. Even her own people only saw her through old statues and holograms. Rumors called her ugly by Kilari standards. Others called her broken. Some even said she was kept hidden to protect the image of strength. But to Reeve, none of that mattered. She was sharp. She was wise. She had a strange sense of humor. And for someone who led an entire race, she seemed incredibly alone. The next day, Reeve sent a message first. Commander Reeve, why did you ask if I was single? She replied almost instantly. Quinn Halzarith, _9000. Because I was curious, he typed. Commander Reeve, curious about what? Quinn Halzarith, _9000. About how humans connect. I speak with you more than anyone else in my court. It seemed natural to ask. Reeve paused, then typed, Commander Reeve, we connect through trust. through small things, asint words, shared stories, even silence. Quinn Helsrith _9000. Then perhaps we are more connected than you think. That night, Reeve requested something bold. A video call. No human had ever seen her. Maybe she would decline. Maybe she would get angry, but she agreed. Audio only, she said. The next day, at exactly 19 o'clock ship time, the call began. Her voice was strange, yet calm. Deep, yet warm, like wind over metal. They talked for hours, about stars, about pain, about loneliness, about hope. Before ending the call, she said one last thing. You are the only human who has spoken to me without fear or pity, that is. Rare, Reeve replied. You are the only queen who has spoken to me like I am more than a title. Silence. Then her voice again. Good night, human. Click. The call ended. Reeve leaned back, heart still pounding. He knew something had changed. And he wasn't afraid. Commander Elliot Reeve couldn't stop thinking about the voice. Queen Halzareth's voice was not what he expected. It had strength, but also sadness. It was proud, yet lonely. He had spoken to many leaders across the galaxy, but none had ever sounded like that. She wasn't just a ruler. She was a person with pain, with history, and with questions that had no easy answers. For the next few days, their conversations continued, sometimes in text, sometimes in voice. She asked him more about humans, about how they handled loss, about how they loved, about what made them stay loyal to someone. Reeve gave honest answers, not perfect ones, just human ones. And each time he spoke, the queen listened more closely. One evening, as the stars slowly drifted outside his window, Reeve asked the question he had been holding back. Commander Reeve, may I see you? There was no reply for a long time. He knew it was bold. He knew her people had not seen her in years. He had heard the rumors that she was no longer able to walk, that her body was damaged by war, and that she was considered ugly even by Killary standards. But none of that mattered to him. She was the first ruler who didn't hide her feelings in politics. She spoke clearly. She challenged him. She trusted him. And now he wanted to offer that trust back. Her reply came 20 minutes later. Queen Halzareth _9000. Why, Commander Reeve? Because I want to understand. I want to talk face to face. Not as a soldier to a queen. Just ... One being to another. Another pause. Then her voice came through the speaker. I will allow it. Just once. No recording, no crew. You will see only what I allow. Is that acceptable? Reeve smiled. Yes, Your Majesty. The next day, a private channel opened on his screen. A countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. ... The screen turned black. Then slowly an image appeared. Queen Halzareth sat upon a strange, floating throne made of dark metal and glowing blue veins. Around her was a soft mist. Her body was thin and partly supported by advanced machinery. One of her arms was missing. One leg looked mechanical. Her face was not smooth like human skin, but shaped in angles and ridges with one side scarred. But her eyes were bright gold, clear and deep. They stared at Reeve without fear. She spoke. This is me, human, the real me, not the queen in the statues, not the voice behind the curtain. Reeve didn't look away. He didn't flinch. He just nodded. You look strong, he said. A strange sound came from her, a soft, short breath. Laughter. You're the first being in 30 years to say that. Back on the queen's ship, her advisors were watching closely. They didn't like the idea of a human seeing her. Some whispered that it was dangerous, that the queen's image must stay perfect, that her body must remain hidden. But Halzareth didn't care. After years of silence and shadows, she finally felt ... seen, and not for power, not for beauty, just for being who she was. Over the next few weeks, Reeve and Halzareth continued their conversations. Now with video, they didn't speak like diplomats anymore. They spoke like old friends. They spoke of memories. Reeve told her about Earth's sunsets, about swimming in deep oceans, and the feeling of wind through trees. Halzareth told him about the Kalari homeworld before the wars, about their sky cities and crystal gardens, and the songs that mothers once sang to their young. One day, Reeve asked, "Why don't you show your face to your people?" She looked down. "My scars make them uncomfortable. My weakness makes them doubt." Reeve leaned closer. "But you're still there, Queen." She answered quietly, "They respect the throne, but not the one who sits on it." Later that week, Reeve received a surprising message. "Queen Halzareth _9000. You may visit. In person." No human had ever been invited aboard the Kilari. "Royal ship," he typed. "Commander Reeve." "Why me?" "Queen Halzareth _9000, because you did not look away." Special shuttle was prepared. No cameras. No security team. Just Reeve and a translator AI? He arrived at the outer docking ring of her massive palace ship, the Silent Crown. The structure was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was shaped like a spiral star with moving rings that sang with low energy. Vibrations, he walked slowly through empty halls, guided by light. No guards, no servants. Finally, he reached a chamber with a single door. It opened with a soft hum, and there she was. Queen Halzareth sat in her floating throne, surrounded by soft blue light. She did not wear royal robes, just a simple black tunic, no crown. No symbols, only herself. Reeve stepped forward, bowed slightly, then raised his eyes to hers. "Thank you for trusting me," he said. "I have not trusted anyone in a long time," she replied. They spoke for hours, not about politics or treaties, but about who they were. She told him about the war that broke her body, about the betrayal of her own council, about the silence that followed. He listened, and then he told her about his own losses, about the friends he left behind, the love he never had time for, the dreams he gave up for duty. At the end, there was a long silence. She looked at him carefully, and then she asked again, but this time with warmth in her voice. "Are you single, human, ... or just afraid to say yes?" Commander Elliot Reeve sat in the quiet room of the Kilari Palace ship's Silent Crown, the soft hum of the ship's engines around him. His heart still beat fast from the last words the Queen had spoken. The question echoed in his mind like a quiet drumbeat. "Are you single, human, or just afraid to say yes?" Elliot had never felt such a question weigh so heavily. He looked at Queen Halzareth, sitting in her floating throne. Her golden eyes met his, calm and steady. She waited. He cleared his throat. "Your Majesty," he began carefully, "I have been single for a long time. But it is not fear that holds me back. It is duty. I serve many people, and I have no idea what lies ahead." The Queen nodded slowly. Duty is a heavy chain. But sometimes breaking the chain can be the greatest act of strength. Elliot was surprised by her words. He had always thought duty was a prison, not a choice. "Tell me," she said softly, "what does it mean to be strong when your body's broken?" He looked away for a moment, thinking. "I believe strength is not only in the body, it is in the heart, in the mind, and in the will to continue." Halzareth's eyes shone brighter. "Then you understand me better than most." The Kilari court was watching. In the vast halls of the Silent Crown, the nobles whispered among themselves. Many did not trust the human who had come to sit in their queen's presence. Some saw Elliot as weak. Others believed he was too soft for the cold politics of Kalari rule. One nobleman, a tall figure with sharp features named Varkal, openly scorned the queen's choice. "Your Majesty," Varkal said during a meeting, "why waste time on a fragile human? His species is weak and unpredictable. We should focus on strength, not soft feelings." Halzareth did not answer immediately. Her eyes narrowed, and her voice was calm but firm. "Strength is not only in muscle and weapons, Varkal. It is also in loyalty, trust, and understanding." Varkal scoffed. "You risk the empire for a human's kindness." The room grew tense. Some whispered agreement. Others held their breath. Later, Elliot found the Queen in a private chamber. She was quiet, staring out at the stars beyond the ship's windows. "Your people doubt you," Elliot said gently. She smiled sadly. "Have doubted me for years. My body is a symbol of war and defeat to them, but I still hold the throne." Elliot sat beside her. "I don't see defeat in you. I see a ruler who survives, who cares." She looked at him, surprised by the warmth in his voice. "Most see only scars," she said. "But you, you see the soul." Days passed and the two grew closer. Their conversations were no longer formal. They shared stories and dreams. One afternoon, Elliot asked about her life before the war. She told him about the sky cities of Killara, her home planet, about the crystal gardens where she once played as a child, about the song her mother sang before she left for battle. Elliot listened, imagining a world of light and music far from cold starships. "And what happened in the war?" he asked softly. "The war took everything," she said. "Body and shattered my people's trust. I was left alone." "But you survived," Elliot said. "Because I had no choice," she answered. One evening, as the stars moved slowly across the sky, Elliot received a message from Earth. His superiors were concerned. The relationship between him and the Queen was growing too personal. They warned him to be careful. He showed the message to Halzareth. She laughed, a low sound that filled the room. "They fear what they do not understand," she said. "But I do not." Elliot nodded. "Neither do I." Their bond became a symbol not only of hope but also of change. The Killara people began to see their queen in a new light. Not as a broken ruler, but as a strong leader who chose her own path. Elliot's courage to stay, to accept her as she was, gave the queen new power. One day during a ceremony, a young Killara approached Elliot. "You are not afraid," the youth said quietly. Elliot smiled. "Why should I be? True strength comes from the heart." The young one nodded, eyes bright. "I want to learn from you." Back in the throne room, Halzareth spoke to her court. "Let this be a lesson," she said. "Strength is not in hiding our scars, but in showing them with pride." Her words spread like wildfire. Many began to change their minds. That night, Elliot and the Queen stood together on the observation deck. The stars shone above them. Halzareth turned to him. "You did not flinch," she said simply. "No," Elliot replied, "because I see you, not your scars." She smiled softly. "Maybe human, you are stronger than you know." The grand hall of the Silent Crown gleamed with cold light from the tall crystal chandeliers. The air was thick with tension. Noble Killara, dressed in sharp robes and heavy armor, gathered around, whispering and exchanging wary glances. Arrival of Commander Elliot Reeve, a human, had stirred the old wounds of pride and tradition. Queen Halzareth sat on her floating throne at the center. Her golden eyes scanned the crowd with calm determination. Tonight was not just a ceremony, it was a test of loyalty and strength. She had invited Reeve to stand by her side publicly, a bold move that some saw as dangerous. Elliot stepped forward, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes upon him. He wore the simple uniform of the Earth's diplomatic corps, but here it made him stand out like a bright flame. Suddenly a voice rang. "Out sharply from the crowd, Your Majesty," called Varkle, the sharp-featured nobleman from before. "Is this human your consort or your servant? Shall we bend our knees to an outsider?" The room erupted with murmurs and quiet laughter. Some nobles nodded, others frowned. The question was meant to humiliate, to remind the Queen that a human had no place in Killara power. Halzareth's face remained calm. Then she spoke, her voice clear and strong. "Elliot Reeve stands here not as a servant, but as my ally. Loyalty is not bound by species, but by heart." "And action?" Varkle sneered. "Words are easy. But can a human protect the Empire when enemies come?" At that moment, the great doors of the hall burst open. Several armored guards entered swiftly, their weapons raised. The crowd gasped and stepped back. A group of rebels, loyal to Varkle, stormed in, trying to seize the throne. The attack was sudden, violent, and unexpected. Elliot did not hesitate. Though unarmed, he stepped in front of the Queen, his voice loud and commanding. "Guards, secure the Queen." The royal guards moved quickly, but the rebels were fierce. A fight broke out among the crystal pillars and golden tapestries. Elliot grabbed a heavy metal rod from a nearby stand and joined the fight. His movements were fast and precise. Though human, he fought with courage and skill. One rebel lunged toward the queen, but Elliot threw himself forward, blocking the strike. He took a blow to his shoulder, but stood firm. "Stand back, your majesty," he shouted. Halzareth's eyes shone with pride. She extended her hand, and her floating throne rose, forming a protective shield around her. The rebels, seeing their leader wounded and the queen's power, began to retreat. The hall returned to silence. After the attack, the queen looked at Elliot with gratitude. "You saved me," she said quietly. Elliot smiled, despite the pain. "I am here to protect you." The nobles who had doubted him looked at him differently now. The human had not only stood beside their queen, but had defended her with strength and courage. Varkle, wounded and humiliated, was taken away by guards. His rebellion had failed. Days passed, and the story of the attack spread throughout the empire. Many began to accept Elliot as part of the queen's court. His bravery had won respect. One afternoon, in a quiet garden filled with glowing blue flowers, the queen and Elliot walked together. "You have changed the course of history," Halzareth said softly. Elliot shook his head. "You changed mine. You showed me that strength comes in many forms." She smiled. "I want you to know something. For many years, I did not laugh. Not once, but you made me laugh." Elliot chuckled. "I didn't know I had that power." "You do?" she said. "Hey, you make me dangerous again." That evening, at a formal banquet, Halzareth stood and raised her glass. "To loyalty, courage, and new beginnings," she declared. The room echoed with quiet applause. Elliot looked at her and nodded together. They had faced danger and doubt and had shown the empire a new path. Later, in a private room, the queen looked at Elliot with a softer expression. "Will you stay by my side?" she asked. Elliot smiled warmly. "As long as you will have me." They stood close, the light of distant stars shining through the window. The future was uncertain, but together they were ready to face it. The calm, after the rebellion, was short-lived. News of Queen Halzareth and Commander Elliot Reeves' growing bond had spread beyond the Silent Crown and the Killary Empire. Across the galaxy, powerful factions watched with interest and suspicion. The Galactic Council, a body made of representatives from dozens of star systems, convened urgently. Some feared the alliance between a human and the disabled Killary Queen would upset the delicate balance of power. Others saw it as a hopeful sign of unity. Back on Earth, Elliot's superiors sent him a strict message. "Commander Reeve, your relationship with Queen Halzareth must remain professional. Avoid personal entanglements that could endanger diplomatic missions." Elliot read the message carefully. He knew his duty, but he also knew the Queen needed more than just diplomacy. Meanwhile, a shadow moved through the galaxy. A group called the Sovereign Blades mercenaries and political enemies of the Queen plotted in secret. They believed the Killary Empire should return to its old ways of power and conquest. They hated the idea of weakness, of peace, of cooperation with humans. Their leader, a ruthless warrior named Krell, ordered his forces to strike, one cold night. As the Silent Crown drifted near the star Rillis, alarms suddenly blared through the ship. "Attack! Attack!" shouted the bridge crew. Elliot was rushed to the command room. The ship was under fire. Krell's mercenaries had found them. The Silent Crown shuddered under the blast. Elliot stood beside Queen Halzareth on the bridge. Despite the chaos, she remained calm. "Prepare defenses," she commanded. "Evasive maneuvers." Elliot watched the screen showing enemy ships closing fast. He turned to her. "We can't hold much longer." She nodded. "Then we fight." The battle was fierce. The Silent Crown's shields flickered as laser blasts hit their hull. Elliot moved quickly, coordinating the ship's response and supporting the Queen's commands. At one point, an explosion rocked the bridge, throwing Elliot to the floor. His head hit hard, and he struggled to stay conscious. When he opened his eyes, The queen was beside him, holding his hand. "You must stay with me," she said firmly. "The Empire needs you."
Oh.
Elliot forced a smile. "I'm not leaving you." Fighting continued for hours. The mercenaries used every weapon and trick they had. But the Queen's leadership and Elliot's quick thinking kept the ship alive. Finally, the attackers retreated, leaving the Silent Crown damaged but intact. After the battle, the Queen and Elliot met with their council. "We cannot live in fear," Halsrith said. "Our enemies want us divided. We will show them that unity is our strength," Elliot added. "We must build stronger alliances, both within the Kilari and with other species." But danger was not only from outside. Some in the Queen's court whispered against Elliot. They said the human was a risk, a distraction. One night Elliot overheard a conversation. "His loyalty is to Earth, not the Empire," a noble said. "If the Queen falls, so will the human." Elliot did not confront them. He knew trust was earned through actions, not words. Queen. Halsrith stood by Elliot. In a speech before the court, she declared, "Commander Elliot Reeve is not my weakness. He is my strength. Together, we will build a future for our people." The room erupted with applause. Days later, in a quiet moment, Elliot asked the Queen about the future. "Do you believe peace can last?" She looked out the window at the stars. "Peace is a choice, and I choose it." Together, they began planning new treaties with nearby worlds. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges. Their bond became a symbol not just of romance, but of hope and change. But the galaxy watched closely. Enemies prepared to strike again, and Elliot knew their fight was far from over. Months passed. The damage from the last attack had been repaired, and the Silent Crown once again floated with pride across the stars. Inside, Queen Halsrith continued her rule with quiet power, and by her side always stood Commander Elliot. Reeve, their friendship had become stronger than many political alliances. Their bond was not built on fear or strategy, but on respect, truth, and shared strength. The galaxy had seen their story and reacted in different ways. Some called it strange, some called it dangerous, but many called it inspiring. Queen Halsrith had grown more confident. Her voice in the Galactic Council was firm now. Leaders who once ignored her now listened. Her scars no longer made others look away. Her people no longer whispered in secret. They looked up to her again, not for how she looked, but for what she did. One morning, she called Elliot to her garden chamber. It was a peaceful place with silver plants and soft glowing stones. The two sat near a fountain that hummed with gentle energy. "I have been thinking," the Queen said, her eyes calm. "We have brought peace, but peace must be protected." Elliot nodded. "Peace is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of something better." She looked at him with warmth. "Shh, you speak like a leader." "I've learned from one," Elliot replied. Later that week, a surprise invitation arrived from the Galactic Council. They had decided to host a ceremony on a neutral planet, inviting leaders from all species to discuss the next era of peace. Queen Halsrith was asked to give the opening speech. It was a great honor, one many believed she would decline due to her appearance, but she accepted. When they arrived on the council planet, the atmosphere was filled with wonder. The halls were made of glass and silver, filled with light from 3 suns. The Queen entered slowly in her floating throne. Some leaders looked surprised by her appearance. Others stared in silence. But Elliot walked beside her, head high, and eyes full of pride. The council chamber became quiet. Then the Queen spoke. "I was once called broken," she began. "I was told my body was a weakness, that my silence kept my power. But I have learned that silence can become a prison. Scars can become strength." She paused, then looked at Elliot. "I found an Alano, a friend who did not look away, who stood beside me, even when the galaxy doubted us both." Murmurs rose around the room. Not judgment this time, curiosity, even respect. Queen Halsrith continued. "Today we are not here to hide what is different. We are here to build a future where respect and peace are not decided by appearances, but by action." The room gave a soft, growing applause. After the speech, many leaders approached her, some nervous, some surprised, but all respectful. Spoke of new alliances, of better trade, of sharing knowledge. The queen had not just spoken. She had awakened something in them. That night, Elliot stood on the balcony of their guest quarters. He looked up at the stars, remembering how it all began with a simple question in a private chat. "Are you single, human?" So much had changed since that day. He smiled, remembering how frozen he had been, unsure of how to answer. Now, things were different. Now, he wasn't afraid. The queen floated beside him, her throne quiet in the night air. "You're thinking too much again," she said. "Just remembering," he replied. There was a long pause. Then she said, "I never expected a human to stay." He looked at her gently. "You never asked me to leave." Her golden eyes shimmered. "You see me for who I am?" Elliot stepped closer. "You showed me who you are. It's someone I trust with everything." Another silence passed, soft and warm. Then she asked, like she had once before, but this time with no fear and no need to explain, "Are you still single, human?" Elliot smiled. "No," he said, "not anymore." Months later, the queen returned to Killara, her homeworld, for the first time in decades. It was a grand day. Her people lined the streets, not to cheer for a perfect queen, but for the one who had never given up on them. Elliot walked beside her, not as a visitor, but as a part of the future she had built. Together they stood on the palace balcony. Banners flew. Bells rang. Even children smiled up at the throne. Queen Halzareth raised her hand. "Let it be known," she said, "that strength wears many forms, and peace begins with the courage to be seen." And beside her, Elliot nodded. The human who didn't flinch. The queen who dared to ask. Together, they had changed everything.